At this point in time, we are currently awaiting Summer Games Fest, and while we are awaiting that, we are also awaiting any major news or updates in regards to the next major Sonic title. As of right now, we have been pretty much generally quiet on that end. We've had updates in regards to what's going on with like Sonic Rumble and stuff like that. We've had obviously more updates and situations going on with Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, which is always good and dandy and fine, but we don't know the entire shebang of what's going to happen with this next major title, right? Now, one thing we did get a little bit of potential information on was the fact that we could very well be receiving a Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition. They released a ESBR rating about a month or so ago or something like that. Obviously, this is kind of old news, but obviously I like to talk about things when they're a little bit closer, when I'm really feeling the hype. And, you know, I've been seeing, you know, some talks and conversations here and there in regards to a potential Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition, right? Now, I obviously, based on the title and the thumbnail that you've seen, I have mixed feelings about this concept, because as much as I like Sonic Frontiers, it's easily, you know, up there with my favorite Sonic games. Obviously, I am fully aware of how flawed the game is. It's not perfect, but I can respect the effort put into it, because it was, you know, they're pretty much last-ditch effort to get out one final hurrah for Sonic in the gaming space, only for it to do much better than they anticipated, thanks to, you know, the heart and soul that they put into it, as well as, you know, the movie kind of backing it back in the day, right? People were a lot more hype about Sonic because of that, and so they were pretty much more willing to give something like Sonic Frontiers a better chance, right? So, say what you will about Sonic Frontiers, I love it to death. I've played it multiple times, I think like 3 or 4 playthroughs at this point, right? But regardless, we're now waiting on that next step. And the thing about, you know, waiting with, you know, the Sonic franchise is that they're usually pretty deliberate about this stuff. They've been pretty good these last couple of years about filling in gaps, right? We had the year of Shadow, we had his whole situation, a lot of different events and things like that. Obviously, we had the movie to look forward to at the end of that year, and then we also had the remaster and additional content edition of Sonic Generations X Shadow, right? Or Sonic X Shadow Generations, right? And that was a great release. They did very good with that, very happy with the outcome of that, and we saw a little bit of a glimpse into what the quality of Sonic games could look like going forward with that, right? So that's cool, that's dandy. I'm super happy with how that turned out. So, you know, while we're waiting, we now look towards this next, you know, little project of Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition as another little holdover situation while we wait for that next major thing. I have no doubt in my mind, you know, it's still the middle of the year. It's only May right now. We still have plenty of potential time before we could get a reveal for the next major Sonic title. We'll probably get it like next year at maximum, right? And while we wait for that, they could be looking to, you know, just maximize potential and just give us a little bit of something to chew on with a definitive edition of Sonic Frontiers. And that's cool. But I have mixed feelings about that. I've done what I always do. I've listed my good and my bads, and we're just gonna run through it, right? So, as far as my goods go, right? Starting with the goods, the potential of general higher quality content across the board, right? So, obviously, one of the things a lot of people had problems with in Sonic Frontiers is the fact that we had like a lot of like general, you know, visual situations, you know, like the pop-in situation people were not very fond of. Obviously, graphically, it's okay, but it's like, you know, it's a good-looking game for the most part, but there are a lot of aspects to it that look a little rough, rugged, and that could use some, you know, updating here and there. Obviously, there are some aspects that could use high resolution, especially on the Nintendo Switch version. We are still waiting for that definitive Nintendo Switch 2 edition, which is probably what this would be. You know, this is probably one of those things that, like, if we're going to get that Nintendo Switch 2 edition, that's really going to push the Nintendo Switch 2 to its limits and really, you know, maximize quality out of the game as much as humanly possible, it would be for this. But also, they're going to utilize, you know, the newest hardware in the PS5 Pro and stuff like that to really push the potential of what this game could have looked like frame one. And, you know, I'm really looking forward to that. You know what I'm saying? We're probably going to get a lot less pop-in. It's probably going to be just, it's going to run a lot smoother, a nice consistent 60 across the board with probably little to no frame drops and things like that. It's going to look maybe even higher than that. You know what I'm saying? I'm no, like, tech demon. I don't know all of these specifics and, like, doodahs of... you know, of the tech world and stuff like that, but you get what I'm generally getting at. Obviously, we would like to see higher resolution in a lot of different areas, a lot less pop-in, some frame rate fixes in areas that may need it, especially against like higher, the more demanding bosses and situations like that might slow things down a little bit. Maybe some more visual fidelity in, certain aspects when you're fighting. Maybe some things will be a little bit more cleaned up and stuff like that, and that's a cool aspect that I would definitely love to see, generally speaking, across the board. I feel like that could really help elevate the game's general quality if we just had better things to look at. Things just looked a lot more interesting. Maybe some additional sound effects for certain things to make it feel better. Who knows? There's a lot of ways that could probably go about that. I generally think that the game in of itself does look generally good, but there's always room for improvement. Another potential positive that I have listed here is that the gameplay aspects could be improved in a couple of ways. Obviously, one of the biggest complaints people have about Sonic Frontiers gameplay wise is the fact that he feels dummy slow in cyberspace. I don't know what it is. Going from the overworld to cyberspace, they just decided to slow him down marginally. Maybe it's because they had to, because the level designs were not made with that kind of speed in mind, which is weird because how did that happen? I don't understand. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, maybe they could do some touch-ups in that arena. Obviously, we do have the update in which we received the spin dash, so that makes it a little bit more bearable. But I feel like his natural speed could definitely be upped just a little bit without any like major changes to the cyberspace levels themselves. I think they could easily just touch up on Sonic speed just a little bit. He'll feel a lot better if they were to just do that and make the cyberspace stages feel just insanely better. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know. I feel like that could definitely be touched up in some aspects. Obviously, as far as the combat goes, maybe they could make some improvements to make the bosses feel a little bit better to fight, make the general fights amongst like regular enemies, bosses, or whatever, just feel a little bit more hype, flashy, or just generally better. You know what I'm saying? The combat is very like, when you really, I've played through the game like 3 or 4 times now. When you really get into the nitty-gritty of it every time, it starts to feel a little bit more bare bones. It's very surface level in terms of a combat system. It's no like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta or anything like that. It is very just hit, dodge, run type situation. And it's okay. I like that they did that. I love that they showed off Sonic's more like combative style. I love that they went out of their way to do that, but I feel like they could definitely do a little bit better. Obviously, if they were to do something like that, I would love for them to improve on what they've built with this combat system in another game. Obviously, I would want for that next game to just go all out with a more fleshed out and more in-depth combat system than what we have here, but maybe they could improve and touch upon what we have with this base combat system a little bit. Maybe we could get more unique moves. Maybe we could end up getting even more unique enemies that we didn't have in the original base game and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like they have a lot of opportunities to play around. Right? And then my last major positive is the potential of like additional levels, cutscenes, and other general content that may not have been in the original. So we could possibly be looking kind of at a Sonic X Shadow Generation situation, probably to a much lesser extent. Obviously, they could have easily potentially just gone through and maybe added a couple of cutscenes to make a couple more sense of things, maybe to, for example, right, the cyberspace levels. Like, one of the things that they said was that the idea here was that they were hiding all of these different keys and things like that amongst, these levels and things like that, and the idea was that they were sifting through Sonic's memories so that he would have something familiar, a familiar way to get through these areas to, progress through, the Starfall Islands. And, in concept, that's cool. But, one of the biggest takeaways that people got from that was the fact that, it was kind of just an excuse, a little bit of an excuse to just reuse level designs, just so that they didn't have to design completely new levels from scratch, so that we could have these just like micro, level situations that were familiar to us. I don't know. It was a little bit of a stretch. I think a lot of people were feeling the same way. It's just like, yeah, no, let's just be honest with ourselves. This was a little bit of a, just a not enough time situation to develop completely brand new levels. And that's okay. You can admit that to us. We're big kids now. You know what I'm saying? We can understand that, right? So one of the things they could definitely do is either, maybe touch up upon that, maybe make the levels feel a little bit better, maybe talk about that in a cutscene or something like that. Like just a little additional cutscene where we're talking to either the end or Sage or something to really justify why we're going through these levels, or maybe there is something there already that kind of explains that. I don't know. Who knows? It's been a good minute since I played at this point in time. But regardless, I don't know. Maybe they could put something a little more in your face to explain something like that. Obviously, you know, additional levels. We could easily add even more cyberspace levels. Maybe even an extra boss or something. Maybe we could touch upon a boss that wasn't, you know, as strong before. Who knows? I think we could just add more content. Couldn't hurt anybody, you know what I'm saying? Maybe another character is floating around, maybe they have something for us to do, maybe some fun little like rival challenge situations. I don't know. I feel like they have ways that they could definitely play around with that. Maybe we could be looking at a situation with the Final Horizon where we get updates where, you know, one of the things that I really wanted to see was more utilization of Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, where we have, you know, we do have our little micro missions that we're supposed to partake in, and we have the option to just go around and play around with the characters and build them up, but you don't really have a need to do that when we don't have any, like, serious bosses that are mandatory, right? You could completely bypass a lot of the levels, or not even the levels, you could just completely bypass a lot of their sections, right? And that sucks, you know what I'm saying? Like, we should definitely have a situation where things feel more mandatory. It feels a little bit more scripted, and we get, you know, maybe some kind of mandatory boss that we have to fight for each of them that makes us actually, you know, feel obligated to go out of our way to utilize their areas and build them up and use their tools, right? So it's like, I don't know, the amount of potential endless content that they could have added it's there, you know what I'm saying? So they could play around, maybe add a couple of things here and there. They probably wouldn't go that crazy with it. Maybe they could, I don't know. Again, if we're gonna end up spending money on a definitive edition, I would hope that they would go out of their way to make, you know, more, you know, really justify that purchase with some new content that we haven't seen before and just go crazy with it, right? But who knows? I don't know how to feel about that yet, but that's generally what we could be looking at. Again, it probably won't even be to the level of Sonic X Shadow Generations, but, you know, something. It would be something. Flipping the coin over, we should probably take a look at the potential negatives as well, right? Firstly, the thing that I have written here is that we kind of received a lot of what would be added in a definitive edition through updates already, right? So that's the thing you got to understand, is that they went out of their way to make an entire, like, year's worth of free content leading, not even before even Final Horizon. We had a bunch of content updates and just general, like, just fixes and touch-ups to the base game through updates for like an entire year before we even got Final Horizon. We got the spin dash, we got challenge modes, we got photo mode, we got so many crazy updates that just made the game feel better already. We had the speed meter that we could mess with and stuff like that. We had the limiters. They added a lot, and then on top of all of that, they still added Final Horizon and gave us a full story overhaul, story finale overhaul with an entirely new boss, like, just a lot. They added a lot of content throughout that year, and that's like, yo, to go out of your way to add that much content, no modern game is doing that for free this day and age. Like, that was literally a miracle situation that we got all of that for free. Like, this all that entire year of content that they added could have been the definitive edition right there. So the fact that we already have all of that, but now we could be receiving this definitive edition, like, what else are we doing here? Like, what more are we adding? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That's a lot of time and money that they already poured into Sonic Frontiers. I imagine that they have a for sure soft spot for Frontiers because it definitely helps save the games. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's because of Frontiers that we'll see more games going forward, and that is nothing short of a good thing. I love Sonic Frontiers, and I'm very happy that it did what it did, despite its flaws and everything like that. But I don't know. I just feel like they already put so much time and effort into it that it's like, what more do we need to do with this? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Maybe they want to make Sonic Frontiers look even better in the eyes of the general public. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. It's kind of hard to see what else they could be doing here, right? As opposed to just making a new project, right? Another thing is that, okay, this one has like a little bit of a caveat, right? So we have the potential of another full price game for a game that's not even that old, right? Obviously, this game is not that old. It only came out in 22, mind you, at the end of 22 in November. So it's only almost 4 years old this year. It'll be turning 4 this year. That is not that old. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if we were to get this definitive edition, I do imagine if they're smart, what they would do is give us that general, like, oh, you know, if you already own the base game, you just pay this little bit of extra, like this $10 or whatever, $5, $10, $15, and you get the definitive edition. You get all of the, you know, the bonuses and upgrades from that little purchase. But if you don't own the game yet, obviously you would be spending potentially $60, maybe even $70. I wouldn't put it past them. They might be getting in their greedy era, you know, especially when you consider the fact that Crossworlds was $70. Respectfully, $70 is crazy for a spin-off title. I'm a diehard Sonic fan. $70 is still ridiculous for Crossworlds, right? Don't even get me started on Mario Kart World. But either way, you know, trying to get the general public who already is very flip-floppy when it comes to the presence of Sonic Frontiers. Like, there's a lot of people that despise Sonic Frontiers. They're mad as hell about Sonic Frontiers. So to try and, like, you know, sway them with this definitive edition, it would be foolish to sell this at full price. Like, respectfully, the only way you're gonna get people's attention is if you sell this for like 20, 25 bucks, maybe 30 bucks. You know what I'm saying? The game's already old, and, you know, you're not going to convince anybody who hasn't already gotten the game to get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Frontiers is the newest Sonic experience that you could get. It's the most accessible, and, you know, it's gone on sale multiple times at this point. You know, I'm sure it's going to continue going on sale with every month or so, you know what I'm saying, for the rest of its life, or for the rest of the gaming sphere's life, you know what I'm saying? I can't imagine a situation where it goes over well if you were to charge full price for a definitive edition for a game that's already as old as it is. That, you know, you have to sell them on it, and selling it for $70, even $60, very much pushing it, in my opinion, right? I get that they don't already have the game, but the point is that they need to be rewarded for waiting, right? That's the one thing the gaming sphere has forgotten, is that, you know, people, you know, should be rewarded for waiting, not, you know, patronized or punished for that, right? So they waited all these years to maybe, you know, consider Sonic Frontiers if it got a better edition. We finally get that better edition, and it's even more expensive than the base game. You're not convincing anybody to do that. I mean, you might, I don't know, it could work out better than I think, but it's kind of a hard sell, in my opinion. So, I don't know. That's a situation that we definitely have to play by ear. Maybe I could be wrong about that. Maybe they have a different situation, a way of going about that. Maybe, you know, it would be smart if you were to get Sonic Frontiers on sale and then maybe pay that extra like 10, 15. Hopefully it's no more than that for this definitive edition. And then, you know, you've gotten it for a much cheaper price. I don't know. There's probably ways to go about it. I just hope that they're smart about it. That's all I care about. And then lastly, the fact that, you know, this could be real means that there were devs working on this definitive edition that respectfully could have been working towards newer, bigger, better projects, right? Again, like I just mentioned, this Sonic Frontiers is not that old. It got so many free updates that we already basically have something equivalent to a definitive edition already, because if you waited on Sonic Frontiers and you get it now, like if you didn't get it day one and you waited that extra year through 2023, you already basically have a definitive edition. You got a version of the game that, you know, we didn't get to start with. We didn't start with all of the limiters. We didn't start with all of the options and mechanics that were updated and things like that. We didn't start with the boss rush, the spin dash, any of that. You know what I'm saying? We didn't get all of the major bonuses. We didn't get the Final Horizon Frame 1. That was an update they added way later, a full year later, right? So, you know, it's just like the idea that, respectfully, these devs have been working on a potential definitive edition instead of putting all of their effort, brain power, and manpower into a new title kinda iffy to me, right? I know that sounds like an asshole-ish thing to say, an asshole-ish way to go about it. Obviously, you know, for Sonic, you know, they want to, you know, make sure to keep the IP alive in some way or another. Obviously, this would just be a little bit of a holdover, something that wouldn't be too straining on the dev team probably, because they already have all the assets ready to play with. They just need to, you know, make some updates and changes, and that probably wouldn't take that much time or that much manpower or dev power. But frankly, any manpower and dev power that was utilized on this could have been used on a bigger, newer game, because we need as much, you know, manpower and brain power and whatever, just dev power on that game as humanly possible. Call me dramatic, call me ridiculous, but that's truly how I feel about it, because we are still in a situation with Sonic where it could be very much hit or miss with a lot of people, and all it takes is one too many wrong steps to turn people off from Sonic again. And I'm telling you right now, this game has to look and feel and play much better than Frontiers ever did. They were able to get away with it with Frontiers because, you know, I don't know, Sonic fans are diehard. We always find a way to keep it alive anyway, so maybe I'm just being dramatic about it, but at the same time, it's just like, it's just gotta be a lot better. It just needs to be a lot better, and I feel like their efforts would be, well, you know, much better spent on that new major Sonic title. So, I don't know. Call me wrong, I wouldn't blame you, but that's where my head is at with that kind of situation. So, either way, that's what I've been thinking about. Obviously, you know, whatever we do get with a definitive edition of Sonic Frontiers, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to play it, because Sonic Frontiers, that's my baby, brother. I love that damn game to hell and back, despite all of the issues that came with it. You know what I'm saying? I love it too much. It's too important to me. You know what I'm saying? And I'll play through it a million more times before we get that next one. And, you know, there's a lot of aspects about Frontiers that's gonna be like, damn, like, are they gonna be able to top that? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my god, the way they handled boss battles and music and like a lot of the things about that game they handled was really good, and I'm really looking forward to whatever they build up with next. All right, so we'll have to play that one by ear, but I'm getting out of here, so I'm passing the mic over in your direction. I want you guys to tell me everything that you're thinking in the comment section below. Are you feeling the same way about Sonic, a potential Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition? Do you think that this could be a really good addition to the Sonic games? This could be a major improvement for Sonic Frontiers, that we could get a version of it that we never even imagined or dreamed, and it could elevate the game as well as the series to new heights if we get it? Or am I off my rocker? Whether it's my positives and my negatives, we don't need this thing. It's gonna be a bad situation. It's a waste of time, and we should be upset about it. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact I am always gonna be down there with you guys. But with that, yes, ma'am, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and do just that. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gone. So thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor, taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.